Good evening. It is Sunday, and I hope you guys had a great weekend. It's your girl, Angie Smalls. I really hope that you can hear me and see me. I have been following these cases, as you know, and recently the Bryan Kohberger case. The defense, they met in court and they had a list of requests at this motion hearing. So we're going to kind of go through them and go down the list of everything that they're requesting from the court. Let me just make sure that we're live. It says we are live, but I can't see the picture yet, so I'm just gonna try and wait. If you guys are watching, please let me know in the chat if you can hear me. I hope you guys had a great weekend. So you can see this guy's mug. I mean, gosh, look at those eyes. Look at Bryan Kohberger's eyes. He looks like a shark, like just dead behind the eyes. The eyes are the window to the soul, people, and we're gonna find out. It's so interesting because I've been watching commentary, just trying to, I did watch the hearing, but I wanted to hear other people's perspectives, and there was actually, God, I hope we're streaming. Yeah, there was actually a juror that attended his motion hearing, and for the most part, the courtroom looked not full at all. They looked like there was like 20 people in there, and she said she was a little bit surprised by that, but she thinks it's because the trial hasn't started and this was just a motion hearing. And also, sometimes motion hearings happen, and I think that the defendants don't necessarily have to be there. So I was a little shocked that Bryan was actually in the hearing. He was present. If you guys got a chance to look at it, he looked very little. Like this is like a really bad resolution video, but it's like he's 6 feet, and this kind of reminds me of when they had Mark Zuckerberg. I feel like they did do this on purpose. When Mark Zuckerberg had to testify in court, there was commentary saying that they lowered his seat on purpose to make him look less intimidating. So I'm wondering if they used that strategy, because he looked very, very small in court, but he is 6 feet tall. So I'm just trying to pull up my video, guys. I don't see me live yet, but I hope I am live. So let me just make sure that we are streaming before I get into this. If you are watching, please let me know. Please say hi. Shout out to all my new subscribers. I see you. I'm so excited. I really am trying to, provide some insights, just give my take. And there's so many trials happening at once right now, huge trials. There was one I wanted to discuss, was the Karen Reed trial as well, but I just haven't been following that one. I know that's another big one. But for Bryan Kohberger, okay, there we go. I do see me live, so I just want to make sure I can see the chat too. So if you guys are here, thank you for being here. Okay, so I do see us live, so I'll go get into it. Let's just get into it again. So Bryan Kohberger defense, I don't know if this is common. I'm not a lawyer. I do watch trials, but as I've been doing my YouTube channel, particularly just to cover cases, I'm learning more all the time. And this to me I'm not sure if this is common. Is this common? If you know, let me know. Does the defense usually meet the judge before trial starts and ask for so many things? Like they had a huge list of things for to ask the judge on how this trial is going to go. It's like they're trying to set up rules, and I've never seen that before. I've never seen that before. I just thought that both sides studied or went through the case and the evidence, and then it's kind of like a match, or like a soccer match, you know, they train and then you show up the day of the fight and may the best player win. But you know, his defense team is definitely going all out. Okay, so let me go through what some of the things that they are asking when they had his motion hearing. So the defense had many requests. They spent all day presenting to Judge Steve Hippler. Let me see if I can get a picture of Judge Steve Hippler, because the judge, they were even saying that he looked very annoyed with the defense, and there was some body language that anytime the defense got up to speak, like the judge is just like he looks like he has a headache. So he kind of seems like pretty much over some of the things that the defense is kind of bringing to the table, which is, there's a lot of, you know, different takes on that. Some people are saying that you can already tell he's biased, which is a huge no-no for a judge. Judges are supposed to be non-biased, but maybe he was just having a bad day. But every time the defense came up to ask him or present something, he literally, I'm gonna see if I can find, look right there. This is how he was the entire time, like with his head in his hands the entire time. So anyways, so some of the things that the defense is asking for regarding Bryan Kohberger, for one, they asked for, during the trial, the words murderer, psychopath, and sociopath not be used. And the judge actually did kind of say that was okay. Let me see, he actually said that he agreed to prohibit the words psychopath and sociopath, but a murderer can be used during the closing argument. And I mean, that is like, that's definitely a win for the defense, but they're asking the court a lot of little details that it's just evidence. Like, you're asking the court to ignore evidence that they don't want presented. Sorry, I was just literally just trying to find a video of Bryan Kohberger, but I guess these are just like local news stations. They're trying to think of everything. The defense is trying to think of everything to prohibit before the jury finds out, which I just have never seen a defense team really do that. And I mean, it's a good strategy. You know, I think it's a good strategy, because bringing this to the judge now and kind of having the judge like actually make a decision on this before it's presented to the jury is advantageous to them. So okay, so that was one of the requests. Language restrictions, basically. They said they requested a ban on those terms: psychopath, sociopath, murderer, and the judge agreed to prohibit psychopath and sociopath, but allowed murderer to be used only during closing arguments. So closing arguments is at the end, like that's gonna be after everything has already been laid out on the table, the final day you get to use that word. So that's pretty crazy that they actually got that. Let me see if I can pull up what this judge looked like. Bryan Kohberger, Judge Stephen Hippler. Let's see what this guy looks like. Yeah, that's what I meant to Google. Okay, so like the whole time he just had, look, this is basically right here. It even says that on Facebook. If a picture could paint 1,000 words. Judge Hippler's current mood. Literally, that's what he looked anytime the defense asked him a question, which was the entire day. Okay, so the other thing that the defense asked about, and these things are just crazy. To me, these are just normal evidence, like pieces. So they're asking, they're pretty ballsy, like in my opinion. This is like some ballsy like stuff I've never seen before. Oh God, I hope you guys can hear me. Okay, yeah, I think you guys can hear me. Let's see, let me make sure. Okay, yeah. Okay, so they also asked to suppress evidence. I mean, and also, okay, so I was started talking about this before in the beginning, that the courtroom did look empty, and but it wasn't actually. One of the victims' parents were in the courtroom, the Gonzalez family, who, let's see, their daughter's name was, I think, Kaylee Gonzalez. Gosh, what was her name? I think is gosh, why do I not have her name? Bryan Kohberger victim. I mean, that's crazy. Kaylee, yeah, okay, I did have her name right. Her parents were in the courtroom, but you cannot see them. So there's a juror that not a juror, I'm sorry. There was someone that went to the hearing. She went and sat in, and for this lady, she actually wants to see more evidence. She's not convinced that Bryan is the actual perpetrator. She's kind of on the side of the bushy eyebrow thing. Like, that's kind of the only description that they have of the person of interest. And the roommate that used this term to describe Bryan Kohberger, they are really going to hammer on her credibility. They are saying that she admitted that she had been drinking the entire day. Like, from what I heard, they said that she started drinking mimosas in the morning, and then she was drinking White Claws until the end of the day. It's like, damn, I forgot how hard you can go when you're in your 20s, because I'm like, I would have been passed out by like 6 p.m. if I was trying to do that. But so, unfortunately, they're really going to hammer down on her credibility. But this person that actually attended this hearing, she's it's amazing how, she does want Bryan Kohberger to have a fair trial, as he should. But to me, the evidence is overwhelming. But in this lady's opinion, she didn't feel that way. So if you think that there could be someone else, that Bryan isn't, the person, let me know, because I just feel like this evidence is overwhelming. So if you kind of want to see what she says, I'll have to try and find that channel that she that she guessed it on, because I was really kind of surprised to hear that opinion from her. Let's see, let me see what's on YouTube. Her name was Sue. I was trying to look her up because I honestly wanted to invite her on this channel. Like, I don't know if she would do it. You know, we're such a small channel, but you never know. Okay, right here. Courtroom Insider. Okay, so I guess this guy he was in the courtroom. But there was another girl named Sue. Let's see. Bryan Kohberger. Motion hearing. Okay, let's see. Let's see if I can find her. I can't remember what show I was watching. Where I saw that. What was the name of that show? Okay, well, I can't really find it. Maybe it was this one? No, that's Duty Ron. I like Duty Ron. I don't remember the name of the show, unfortunately. But yeah, I was surprised because this lady drove all the way over there, and she said that, you know, she still wants to see more evidence. She's not convinced that Bryan Kohberger is the actual person that did it, which to me was like shocking. So, okay, so the defense, they asked for suppression of evidence. Like, to me, that's wild, because evidence is what they're going to present to convict you. And I didn't know you could do that. I didn't know if you were put on trial, you could ask the judge to withhold evidence. Like, so Bryan Kohberger's defense team, like, that's, to me, is like, they're, like I said, pretty ballsy. And if you are ever on trial, like, now you know. Now you know. Get yourself a defense team that will have a motion hearing before you go to trial and ask them to omit evidence or withhold evidence. Because if the judge says yes, then imagine, like, okay, so here's the other things they were asking. They ask to suppress DNA evidence. Again, this is just like normal, you know, pieces of evidence that you would present at a trial. And so the defense sought to exclude DNA evidence, including samples from Kohberger's father's trash and a knife sheath found at the crime scene. Okay, that's the whole, like, pinning, to me, that's the most damning piece of evidence. And he's asking the judge to not provide this to the jury. That's, like, wild. The judge denied this motion and ruling that the evidence was lawfully obtained. Yeah, the knife sheath was definitely lawfully obtained. You know, they got it at the crime scene. The father's trash, was that lawfully obtained? I think it was, because he was a person of interest, and, you know, I don't know if then, so they, even though Bryan Kohberger, I guess they found out he dumped trash into his neighbor's house, you know, trash cans. I don't know if they asked the neighbor to provide the trash to them. Like, you know, they asked permission to go through the neighbor's trash because they knew that Kohberger had did that. I don't know if they asked the neighbors, like, permission, basically, or got a warrant to get that. But so either way, they still had to, the fact that they cross-referenced Bryan's DNA and it was a match, or it was a match to him being someone in the family. So that's kind of, I don't know if you guys are, like, know the background of the DNA, but basically using the trash that they found, it matched someone in the families to the knife sheath, and it basically made it, I guess they used his father's DNA, and it made it so the son of the person who they got, who's Bryan's father, it was 99.998 match. Like, that is Bryan Kohberger. So you can't avoid that. I mean, the DNA was on the murder sheath underneath the body of one of the victims. Like, that is a holy grail right there. That could have very easily like been contaminated, and it was like the smallest piece of DNA. So that just, to me, that's a godsend. Like, that is what is going to put Bryan Kohberger in jail, or keep him in jail. And he needs to stay in jail. He murdered 4 young souls in the most savage way. The knife that he used and the manner that they were attacked, it's just like nightmare fuel. Like, you know, unfortunately, like, I wish, you know, it just, everyone wishes this tragedy did not happen. I mean, it's just, it's so scary, you know, but that those houses, the house they were living in, they, you know, they didn't lock the doors. It was just like so many synchronicities that happened that night. Like, you know, like the Uber Eats or whatever, the DoorDash, you know, Xana ordering food and it being delivered like literally 10 minutes before Bryan Kohberger showed up, and then them like on their phones, and then them just being drunk, and, you know, your guard is all the way down. You know, you're in your house, like, it's such a vulnerable situation. And just Bryan, I think Bryan is guilty. That's my opinion. He's the only one that could do it. He's the only one that could do it. So, okay, so they asked to suppress DNA evidence. That's wild. Judge denied that motion. Shout out to Judge Stephen for doing that. They asked to suppress his shopping data from Amazon because they think that the sheath was purchased from Amazon. However, the prosecution has not presented an actual receipt. From what they have said thus far, all they have is keystrokes and his search data on Amazon. So if they've obtained like phone records and other records, you would think they would ask Amazon for the receipt. So some people are speculating that actual receipt of the purchase of the knife will be presented in court during the trial. However, they have not said that they have the actual receipt yet. So who knows if they have that, which would be very damning. But the defense is still gonna kind of like try and bring up reasonable doubt, because apparently where they live, there's a lot of hunting going on. A lot of people buy those sorts of knives, just like his face mask. A lot of people in that area, it gets very cold. Like the I don't know what it's called, balaclava, something like that. That mask where it only shows your eyes. Apparently, those items are very common in that area as well. So again, the defense requests suppression of evidence for the digital records. Attempts were made to suppress data from his Amazon, Google, Apple, and AT&T accounts, arguing improper acquisitions. The motion was also denied. Okay, so they did not get that ask either. So far, the defense is 2 for 2. Some of the physical evidence that Bryan Kohberger's defense team challenged is the admissibility of items seized from Kohberger's apartment and vehicle. The court ruled that the searches were conducted appropriately and the evidence remains admissible. So they did not win that one either. So all of the like kind of evidence that the prosecution or whoever, the FBI gathered, the defense is trying to say it was all done improperly and without like proper warrants, and so it should be not deemed acceptable, you know. But the judge isn't having none of that. He's like saying like, who cares? And if he doesn't care, it's going to be presented. So the judge is allowing it, and so Bryan, basically, to me, that's the nail in the coffin. Like, you can't have those things suppressed. They are probably the most damning pieces of evidence. The DNA on the knife sheath, you being 99.998% the person of the DNA, like, really, there's kind of, to me, that's all that I need to know that you did this. So we already talked about how they wanted to ask the judge to not be able to use those words, psychopath or sociopath. The judge did allow the omittance of those words. However, murderer can still be used, but only in closing arguments, which is pretty crazy. That we'll see if the prosecution can actually like uphold that. We'll see if the prosecution can go the entire trial without using the word murderer. I don't know. That's pretty crazy. We'll see. Let me see if I can put up this graphic here. I don't want to play it though.
We do have new developments in the Idaho student's murder case. A judge has ruled that the death penalty is going to remain on the table for defendant Bryan Kohberger.
So that was their other ask. They asked, so this is a death penalty case, and it should be. Death penalty cases are for criminals that have done like horrific acts and extreme cruel violence. That's what the death penalty is for. So that definitely applies in this case. However, the defense's request was they do not allow the death penalty because Bryan Kohberger has autism. But when was he diagnosed with autism? Was it before he committed these murders, or so conveniently after, because he saw how everybody's talking about how socially awkward he is? You know, I would be interested to find out, when was he actually diagnosed with autism? And is that a viable excuse that you are not fit, or you don't fit the standard to actually have a death penalty punishment because of that? So the defense argued that Kohberger's autism diagnosis should preclude the death penalty. They were also kind of like making conflicting arguments, because they were saying that Bryan's autistic, but it's not a mental condition, it's a health condition. And so they were trying to say, like, it's kind of like, can we use the insanity plea, but he's not insane. So they were really contradicting themselves. But the judge ruled that the autism cannot be used as an aggravating factor by the prosecution and may be considered as a mitigating factor. So basically he's saying the prosecution can't use his diagnosis against him, like saying like, oh, he's autistic, which means he could have you know, made these mistakes or led him to do these crimes. And the defense can't use it to say, well, he's autistic. So they're trying to use it for two different reasons. Like the defense is trying to use it for him to get out of the punishment, the capital punishment, and the prosecution cannot use it to prove he is socially awkward and not thinking, and he doesn't think properly. So that is more, gives him more likelihood that he is actually a really bad person. So those things cancel each other out. Like, I think that autism should not even be a part of this trial. So, but the judge, let me see. So the judge did say, okay, so the judge ruled that while autism cannot be used as an aggravating factor by the prosecution, it may be considered as a mitigating factor during sentencing. So he's basically kind of, that's just a little bit of foreshadowing. Like, he's like saying, like, when it comes to the sentencing phase, I might, you know, consider it, and it might help me, you know, decide what a fair punishment would be. So I think the judge is already like, I think the judge already knows. The judge, again, and that's really and technically unfair that he's biased already, but the judge already thinks he's guilty, in my opinion. So I don't know. That's not really good for Bryan. So, okay. So the defense is just throwing everything at the wall and trying to see what sticks, man. And again, very ballsy. They are actually asking to exclude testimony from the surviving roommate, who was Dylan, who described seeing an intruder with bushy eyebrows. They want to not mention bushy eyebrows. Like, what the fuck? Oh, and it says the court has not yet made a final decision on this matter. So that is, I don't know, man. That's like a defining characteristic that the really one of the only descriptions made to describe what this perpetrator looks like. So to me, that screams guilt. That screams guilt. Like, why would you ask the judge to not allow that? Like, because it's describing your client? Is that why? You know, so that describes guilt to me. And then the defense also requested to move the trial out of Lada County, citing concerns over finding an impartial jury. So this is the thing. I thought they already had a jury. Apparently they don't. How the hell are they going to find a jury in Moscow that has not heard about this case? Or what are they going to do? Find someone with dementia? I mean, that's the only 12, 13 people I would think that will be able to sit on this jury and not have heard about this case. But so the judge approved this motion. That's probably the only thing the judge approved. So the trial has been relocated to Boise, Idaho. But that's still not far enough. How far is Boise, Idaho to Moscow? Boise, Idaho to Moscow, Idaho. That's still not far enough to change the venue. Oh, 5 hours? Let me see. Let's see. It's still in the same state. I don't know. What do you guys think, guys? Let me know. I think that the defense is just throwing things at the wall, seeing what sticks. And they're just asking the judge to just dismiss or just ignore a lot of the key pieces of evidence that are really pointing to Bryan Kohberger, you know. And he basically denied everything. The judge denied all of their requests, only except to change venues, which to me, that's not even going to help. Like, everybody's heard about this case. I don't know how they're going to find an impartial jury at this point. The trial is scheduled to begin on August 11th. So that's in May, June, July, 4 months. So, you know, they got a lot of work to do. That's the other thing that the court, the defense was actually complaining about, that the prosecution gave them, I guess, like 6 trillion terabytes or something like that of data, and they don't even have enough time to go through it all. Which could be a problem. Like, imagine just getting files upon files of evidence, of videos, of text documents, of cell phone records, and you have to go through and pick out things that are conflicting to disprove the case against you. Like, but the judge said that they should have kind of brought that to his attention a lot earlier. So he just seemed pretty annoyed with the defense. But, you know, I have to give it to them. They're doing their job. The defense is definitely doing their job for Bryan Kohberger. What do you guys think? Do you think that he's got a good defense team? Are you following this case? Let me know. Let me know if you want me to continue talking about Bryan Kohberger. The Diddy case is coming up. That has been my most viewed video on this channel so far. So I feel like people really, really want to hear about the Diddy trial. But this is my first Bryan Kohberger video, so we'll see what you guys think. And thank you so much for watching, and have a good night, guys. Bye.